Future Commerce is brought to you by Octane AI. Let me ask you a question. Do you want to leverage more customer data and increase your revenue at your brand? The answer should be yes and yes. And with Octane AI, every Shopify and Shopify Plus merchant can do just that. Learn about your customers and collect buyer profile data with engaging quizzes and create personalized campaigns and flows using Facebook Messenger and SMS. Octane AI has plans for any sized business, and Future Commerce listeners get 10% off your first 6 months. So go sign up right now at octaneai.com/future. That's octaneai.com/future. Future Commerce is brought to you by ShipBob. Put your logistics on autopilot. Go to shipbob.com/futurecommerce and get started today with $500 in free shipping credits. Future Commerce is brought to you by Blue Shift. 77% of consumers make brand choices based on personalized experiences. Here's my question. Are they choosing you? Well, Blue Shift allows e-commerce companies to move from batch and blast and one-size-fits-all experiences to something much more custom. You can find out more today about what Blue Shift does for your brand at blueshift.com/futurecommerce. That's blueshift.com/futurecommerce.
Hello, and welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast about next generation commerce. I'm Brian.
I'm Philip, and today we have a very special guest. Vice President of Walmart Health, Mr. Marcus Osborne, is joining us on the show. And welcome to the show, Marcus.
Thanks for having me.
I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Walmart, hey, everybody knows Walmart, right? One of the largest retailers in the world, largest employer, doing amazing things and transformative things in retail. What are you doing in health?
Well, yeah, and maybe I'll give you some of the facts and figures because I think it's worthwhile. I mean, you mentioned,
I think it is.
We're blessed to have, depending on the weeks, call it 140, 150 million customers in the U.S. who still come into our stores, and then and many more who are engaging with us digitally, and some both. We do have almost 1.5 million associates in the U.S., and so I think. Yeah, you asked the question, what are we doing in health? It's on one hand, it's a business that we've been in for a while. We've been in the pharmacy business since the late 70s, and we've had vision centers since the early 80s. And you think about selling direct-to-consumer healthcare solutions, OTC items, vitamins and supplements, and that's an enormous business for us. But I would say, when we step back from this question about Walmart and health, we would say we've always been in it. I think it's recognizing that we have a bigger role to play. And particularly when you think about we're the largest food retailer in the U.S. We sell more bikes than anybody in the U.S. We sell, when we think about our impact on the health of Americans, we have a very significant role. But specifically what I'm focused on with the Walmart Health business is to say, how can we also do more in terms of addressing the care needs of people? And what we know is, for a number of reasons, that Americans are struggling to get access to basic care, to get access to the basic services they need. And so and a lot of that's driven by a lack of affordability. The cost is too expensive. The lack of accessibility and convenience, the complexity of the system. And so what really Walmart Health is about is us saying, how can we also do more to address the care delivery needs and the healthcare services needs of our customers. And so Walmart Health, the venture and the business itself actually represents it's a number of things, but one of the first parts of it is, us opening these new centers that bring together a full array of services, primary care and lab and imaging and mental health services and physical therapy and dental and vision and hearing services and other services, but bring them together all into one setting, make them really easy to access, make it affordable. So we take insurance, but if you don't have insurance, we deliver things on a cash basis at very low prices so that everybody can afford it. And so that's really what we're about more broadly, is how can we using using the platform that we have, help our customers and help actually all Americans get access to the care they need. And that's really what Walmart Health is about.
I mean, it's something to the tune of 90% of Americans live within 15 miles of a Walmart,
That's
right?
Yep.
So, I mean, if anyone's positioned to bring more equitable access to healthcare, it's you guys.
I'm so excited, by this whole concept, and just even personally, I'm like, I find this to be just utterly compelling. I have 4 kids, as many of our listeners know, and oftentimes, they're all boys, and it's often that I'm like, I wish there was more that I could do at Walmart Healthcare. Because it's there, or Walmart Health, because I feel like there's an opportunity here that you've correctly identified to bring healthcare in an affordable way to Americans. How much of your customer base benefits from Walmart Health right now?
As we think about the services we deliver, we operate thousands of super centers today in the U.S. And, I think in total, if you include our Walmart stores and our neighborhood markets and our Sam's Club, that's, over 5,000 locations in the U.S. The Walmart Health infrastructure, we just launched those first sites less than two years ago. And so we have gone big in places like Georgia. Florida is the next big market for us. We're in other states like Illinois and Arkansas, and a smaller presence with some just primary care presence in Texas. So we've got a ways to go before we kind of reach the scale of Walmart across the U.S. But what we're trying to build is something that enables us a platform and a capability that enables us to help people get care in the communities where they are. And so we're nowhere near the kind of Walmart US scale in terms of its reach that you kind of mentioned earlier. Just in a few markets and still need. But I think what we're trying to build is a platform that enables us to get there. And I should note, it's not even so much about these physical centers. We just completed a transaction, an acquisition of a company called MeMD, and which is a group who is providing telehealth services to primarily kind of to employers and to the employees of these enterprises. And this is a group who is doing primary care and behavioral health and other kind of health services virtually. And for us, that's the idea of bringing that platform as part of the overall Walmart Health omnichannel offering is really compelling, because again, it's about one, enabling us to reach more people and do it faster, but two, enabling us even in those communities where we have physical sites of care to reach people the way they want to be reached, and not dictate to them how they get care, but say we want to give you options and you choose the best path for you. And so I think we're in what we're in is in a growth and scale mode. So it's certainly an exciting time for us.
You and I spoke on a panel called that was addressing the benefits or maybe the hidden downsides of the consumerization of healthcare. We spoke together at HIMSS earlier this year. I thought you had a really balanced approach on sort of this idea of what consumerization of healthcare even means. Telehealth certainly is something that comes up a lot when you talk about like the digitization of of the relationship between the care provider and patient. Does this acquisition sort of recenter what the Walmart Health relationship is like with the patient, or does this like fit more squarely into how you had envisioned it all along?
No, I think it envisions how we sort of thought about it all along, and you use the kind of word consumerization in healthcare, and it's talked a lot about in healthcare. And I'll honestly tell you, in some ways, I find that kind of term funny, and the reason why I find it funny is by implication. What that implies, and what when people talk about that a lot, it implies that by its very nature, the healthcare sector, the healthcare industry, isn't a consumer business. And what I like to say is, healthcare and healthcare delivery in the U.S. is as much a consumer business as retail is a consumer business. Like we don't, no one talks about the consumerization of retail, right? Because that's almost kind of an absurd thing. Well, at the end of the day, healthcare is about an individual or a family getting the care they need so that they can live, have how they can have more control over their health and live healthier lives. And so, for us, that's really the ambition, is to say it's not so much about driving consumerization in healthcare. It's about saying the healthcare is and always has been about the consumer. We've just done a really bad job as a sector in the industry in the United States of understanding that. And our challenge then is, how do you actually bring forward solutions that fundamentally represent that reality, that the consumer is in the center of this sector? They have always been the center of this industry, that it's our job as providers, as health insurer payers, as the product guys, pharma and device manufacturers, to serve the consumer. And so to your specific question about MeMD, we also view the world, and I would say this is very much influenced by the work that we have going on the retail side. We view the world through the lens that all things are omnichannel. And what I mean by that term omnichannel, people often confuse it with multi-channel. Multi-channel means, do you have multiple channels of access? So in healthcare, it means, do you have physical sites and centers? Do you use telehealth? Do you use digital health, meaning AI-driven solutions? Do you have care in the home solutions? Omnichannel is actually about creating experiences and where you have all those channels, but the channels start to integrate and work together in a way that allows consumers to create wholly new experiences that no one channel by itself could deliver. And I think for us, that's always been the vision. I would say that in many ways, personally, I'm surprised that the healthcare sector hasn't, that groups who deliver care haven't kind of moved faster in addressing and delivering omnichannel solutions. But I think for us, what the MeMD acquisition was about was just the representation of what we've always believed, is that the very best solutions, if you want to engage consumers, if you want to, particularly in healthcare, if you want to have them feel like they have control over their health, be more engaged in their health, and produce better outcomes, the way you're going to do that is by building robust omnichannel experiences that aren't about one channel, but are about how all these various channels can come together to create something far more robust.
I think to that end, so I mean, you mentioned telehealth as a way to sort of add to that omnichannel experience, right? So now we can connect digitally over health, and the way that we can engage in care can be done in a multiple different ways. I also think about innovation in sort of monitoring, and something we've talked about a lot on this show is sort of body data that we can gather now, and it's getting better and better all the time. And I think about all the different bands that are out there, and the different watches, and the different systems, and you've just acquired into telehealth. As we think about retail and how consumers and brands interact with each other, sort of, as a relationship. There's a lot of, what I would consider sort of push activity, and there's a lot of pull activity as well. But in healthcare, it almost always feels like it's a consumer, or the patient is coming to the provider and saying, I have something that feels wrong or whatever. There's a lot less of a proactive behavior of the provider reaching out to the patient saying, oh, we recognize something is happening, or, oh, there's, this next step in your preventative care, or whatever it is. So with new systems coming online and the ability to do telehealth, do you see opportunities with personal monitoring systems for a more proactive approach to healthcare, or am I jumping too far ahead right now?
No, I see enormous opportunities. In fact, I sort of talk about that. As you think about the value chain and how people are engaging in care, that one of the failure points in my mind is that we've told people that the only way you can kind of assess your health is by going to these places that also have the people who treat you. So in other words, and a lot of times people are like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I said, well, think about that. Think about how you care for your car today, your automobile. That would be like us saying, for you to understand the overall kind of performance and health of your vehicle, that the only way you can do that is by taking it to a mechanic. And I think we all sort of know, one, mechanics are expensive. Two, they're generally in short supply, and they're supply constrained, and there's other sort of challenges there. So instead, what we've actually built in the United States, beyond there being much more robust monitoring and intelligence built into your vehicle that's assessing real time the health of your vehicle, we also have these beautiful things like Jiffy Lubes and Valvoline centers and Walmart Auto Care centers and others that you come in and you get your oil changed and you get your tires rotated, but they also now do. And I was sort of laughing the other day. I went into a center and they did an 84-point check. So that's 84 points of testing, assessment, and diagnostics that they did. And I kind of laughed. The reason why I laughed is I'd sure like that as a human. Right. And here, so the good news is I think we're already moving there. And you sort of started to go there. You think about, kudos to Apple. You look at how much the transformation that's occurring on that watch and its capability in terms of monitoring. It's no longer just pulse, but EKG, and you're looking at. So I imagine over the next 3 to 5 years, there's a wildly innovative roadmap there, not just with them, but other groups of these sort of devices that touch or that are near you, your phone and other things, that are going to enable you to kind of better monitor. I look at things like all the kind of connected home devices, the next generations of Nests. Nest thermostats aren't just going to be about managing temperature in a home, but they're going to be able to monitor movement in the home. So if you want to know whether your mom got up and got out of bed your 82-year-old mom got out of bed this morning, you'll know. If you want to know what potentially the temperature of people in the home and whether there's changes in temperature, you'll know. So a lot of the connected devices are increasingly kind of adding features that are health related. We're actually seeing, and a lot of people aren't talking about it as much as they should, not just innovation, but a real revolution in lab and diagnostic solutions that are going to make the kind of more traditional lab testing much easier to access, much more ubiquitous, much lower cost. You mean just even the obvious things, like look at how many people have done genetic testing over the last 3 to 4 years simply because of the rise of groups like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. The fundamental fact is there are cars being built where you have your hand on the steering wheel and it's monitoring, the car is monitoring now your health, not just its health. So that is becoming more and more pervasive. And when you think about that, what that's really going to do is exactly what you described. It's going to create a much more intelligent, aware front end. So we're going to be able to identify individuals who have issues or risks sooner. And then that connects to the system and says, I'm going to help guide you to, given what I've identified that risk, I'm going to help guide you to what's the best path to get the care you need to address the risk, to kind of put down that risk so that you can stay healthier longer. So put differently, I think we may not see it, but we're kind of coming to our own human equivalent of the 84-point check, right? That we've been doing, or for our cars for years.
Except for it's real time, and it's
except
from the
for it's
home.
real time. Except for it's real time. Yep, exactly. But I'd actually argue, you look at what Tesla's done. They're monitoring the health of your vehicle real time and making adjustments real time. You don't even know it. So I think even what we've seen in autos or the automobile and the transformation there is certainly going to be occurring for us as humans, which is exciting.
Yeah, and I'm thinking even beyond just like direct response to issues, but also like becoming healthier. So you think about all of the opportunities that Walmart has with really healthy food and healthful goals. And, I think about, the way that Philip and I have both gone through health transformations in the past 3 years. And, having an opportunity. So, and you mentioned Apple, we're both using Garmin's, and, the opportunity to help insert like smart, really, data driven, insights into when to consume food, when to consume hydration, what's the healthiest thing at that moment based on your personal body. Like, I think there's just a ton of opportunity there to sort of dynamically be able to address things in the moment. And we talk about, real time ordering and omnichannel. I mean, understanding inventory that people have at homes is going to take part in this as well. So understanding what prescriptions they have, what hydration tools they have, the things that they could run out of at specific times, depending on when they need to consume them, and being able to remind. Like, there's just so many opportunities here that I see, especially for Walmart. Like, this is huge. As we, you were talking just a minute ago, I'm like practically like losing my mind over this, because
he's jumping out of his skin. You'd have to have sat through 240 episodes of the podcast to know how excited he is.
Let me give you 2 examples, because I think you're spot on. And these are, I could give you a million. I mean, we could do a literally 24-hour podcast on all the examples. But there's sort of 2. Like, I think about somebody like a Whoop, right? Who you think about how you're encouraging fitness, but what the insights they sort of come to is, it's not just about, we want to encourage people to be active, but we also need to encourage how do we represent recovery, and that each human, each of us individually are different. And so there are these days where it's interesting. Like, what if you had a device who doesn't just tell you need to go out and do your 10,000 steps every day and let's track them and and it's like automaton. What if instead they say, hey, your body's just not in that space. It needs to recover. So why don't you maybe this is a day you sit on the couch and take a nap for 30 minutes, right? Or, if you're going to go out and do anything, like, don't even do a brisk walk. Just do a walk, or like sit outside for a few minutes. But like, that's a different kind of, that's much more personalized. Or I think about Viome, right? Who's created testing tied to your human biome and your gut health, and they're assessing the type of foods that align with your internal gut and your biome, and those that sort of are not aligned with it. And now they're creating, that lends itself to creating supplements and vitamins and supplements that are designed uniquely for you based on their understanding of your biome, right? And so it's no longer like, you should just go buy a multivitamin, or you should go buy vitamin C. We want to actually create a tailored solution that's designed for the way your system operates. And I think that's where we're going. And that stuff, I think, is so exciting. And quite frankly, as consumers, as a consumer, that's actually what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the one size fits all. I'm looking for the solution that is one size fits one. And so I think increasingly a lot of these digital solutions and these more advanced diagnostics are enabling, and this more advanced biometric and monitoring solutions are enabling us to go down that much more personalized path.
And the speed of care, because that's another thing that's broken with our system right now. It takes so long to go get your diagnostic. So you go to the doctor because you feel like you might have a problem. And then the doctor says, well, I recommend you go to this specialist. And then the specialist says, well, I recommend you get these tests. And when you get the tests 2 weeks later, then they've got to go back and get analyzed. And by the time they get analyzed and you get a call about whether or not then you've got to go back into the doctor to talk about your results. And all of these points along this whole chain actually cost money, and it's not transparent how much they're going to cost as you go along the chain. And so the opportunity, and I love where you're headed with like revolution in diagnostics, because I think that's also going to be part of this like speed to care. That's also going to make things less costly for consumers. And ultimately result in a more efficient healthcare system that more Americans can afford. And so I'm so hyped right now.
well, let me give you an example. I think like this, you you hit the nail on the head, and I'll give you a data point. I mean, we talk a lot when I think about from our own associates, and we see this in the data coming from them. We think about how much unnecessary and inappropriate care is occurring, and an example, one of those areas is in the musculoskeletal space. How many of our associates are saying, "Wow, I've got really significant knee pain or hip pain," and let's stick with the knee pain example. So then they sort of get steered in the normal path. Okay, I'm going to send you to this orthopedist, and guess what? Based on that assessment, it's a high probability you're going to go in and they're going to say, well, you need surgery, right? You need to get a scope, or maybe you even need to get your knee replaced. What we now know from our own assessment is at a minimum 30, and it appears to be closer to 50% of the knee replacements that were being done on our associates in a given year were inappropriate or unnecessary, meaning there was a better path to care, physical therapy or something else that would have generated a better benefit for you, would have addressed your knee pain and enabled you to be much more functional than surgery did. And so you think about that dynamic. Now on the back end, like I think about a company like Spiral Health, who's got a kind of more advanced musculoskeletal assessment. Well, one of the things that they're finding is not only are there better ways to care for it, what we're finding is we're often misdiagnosing. You're coming in with knee pain, but the problem isn't your knee. The problem is you've got your left hip. It's not your right knee. It's your left hip that's out of alignment. And so they come back and say, well, actually, the best course of treatment is not surgery. It's to go in and see a chiropractor or an acupuncture specialist, or to do yoga. And now you think about that change, right? And you think about what that's and the broadening of we as consumers know there's a broad array of solutions that we can avail ourselves of to address our health, but we're trying to find the best one for us given our need, and that often the system is particularly bad at directing us down the best path for us. And so I think you're exactly right. That's what we're going to see. I think with all that's occurring, it's going to change where and how we sort of what's the type of care we get and how is it delivered to us. And I see that in almost every area of healthcare.
Hey, Philip here to tell you about our newest sponsor, Octane AI. If you are on Shopify or Shopify Plus, and who isn't, am I right? Then you need what Octane AI has to offer. I am a huge fan of guided selling, and Octane AI has tools that allow you to get to know your customers on a deeper level and collect more buyer profile data. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you can use things like shop quizzes, Facebook Messenger, SMS, and opt-in tools to allow you to engage your customer more personally so you can get on their level. More personalized campaigns and flows across all channel means more ROI. And that ROI that is driven from Octane AI is usable in other platforms with their integrations to other tools you're already using. Brands have already seen incredible results. Up to 16x increase in email signups and a 28% increase in AOV. That's average order value, money in your pocket. What are you waiting for? Octane AI has plans for any sized business, and Future Commerce listeners get 10% off the first 6 months when you sign up. So why don't you sign up today? Go to octaneai.com/future. Once again, that's octaneai.com/future and tell them Philip sent you. Hey, I just want to jump in here and tell you about our new partner, ShipBob. Let me ask you a question. Do you want to grow your e-commerce business by 1,200%? Well, of course you do. But before you tell me that that's impossible, let me tell you about ShipBob. They are a premium 3PL that offers a global fulfillment network, best-in-class technology, and reliable customer support. And here's a real-life merchant story. When Andrea Lisbona, the founder and CEO of the hand sanitizer brand Touchland, partnered with ShipBob, she was amazed by how fast and seamless ShipBob's pick, pack, and ship process really is, even as her business grew 1,200% in a matter of weeks. So outsource fulfillment to ShipBob and watch your business grow in a scalable way. Go to shipbob.com/futurecommerce to get started with $500 in free shipping credits. That's shipbob.com/futurecommerce and get started today. It's time once again for me to tell you about our newest partner, Blue Shift. Channel centric, siloed, batch and blast, one size fits all. These are the words no marketer likes to use and no campaign that your customers want to be a part of. So why do these campaigns still happen? Why? Well, disconnected data and disjointed technology. Blue Shift's Smart Hub CDP connects data and creates personalized omnichannel experiences for leading brands like James Allen and CarParts.com. Blue Shift provides catalogs for AI-driven product recommendations, advanced predictive segmentation capabilities, and creates custom audiences for your first-party data to leverage across almost any media platform so that you, the marketer, can make batch and blast a thing of the past. Learn more at blueshift.com/futurecommerce and get your copy of the Smart Guide to Product Recommendations for e-commerce and retail for free. That's right. Go to blueshift.com/futurecommerce. This is like such a breath of fresh air. First of all, thank you for, sort of like just falling into the rhythm of how we operate this show, because I think we like to dream big of what the world could be like. And I think a lot of that always gets tethered down by, what actually is and what are the challenges right now. And, one of those is we just came through a public health crisis. And we could talk about how it's exposed all of these inefficiencies in healthcare. For me, I had a very different experience. I actually experienced for the first time ever going to a CVS or a Walgreens and having my very first like digital native healthcare experiences where I like had genuinely really great scheduling experiences and really great messaging about my visit, and testing was actually pretty fast, and I got my results over text message. And I have to have this, again, putting the retail hat on, I think about consumer expectations, and I have to wonder how much that has a parallel in patient care. Are there patient now expectations post-COVID where we've had greater access to better experiences that make us rethink the way that the world could work? And now we take those expectations into the rest of our management of care, and we think, why can't everything act like that? Why can't everything be like that experience? Because that actually was a great experience end to end. I didn't have to have 7 different portals, and I didn't have to have 3 different relationships and lost an online login to something. When I left my appointment, I didn't have to then take a list of 20 items to go get at a different place. Like, these are all solutions that are being solved in retail today. How does that? Are there patient expectations, Marcus, that we are now having to compete with, and how is that going to upset the way that traditional care providers have to digitize their business or modernize?
So I think two things. One is I almost congratulate the three of us. We made it almost 30 minutes and didn't use the word COVID. So that was like,
sorry, I broke it. And I tried not to.
The second thing, I think, what I like, people like to ask this question, like, how much did this pandemic change healthcare? I don't actually think it changed anything. What it did is it was a propellant to a set of changes that were already happening, but happening much slower than I think we as consumers would like. I think what you hit the nail on, expectations around customer experience and customer service have changed. I'll give you a small one. And I've asked this, did you all have to get a COVID test at any point, over the last year and a half? I don't
22 of them. Yeah.
Okay. So what I will tell you is, if you did that, there was less. I believe this number is sort of roughly correct based on what I sort of saw report out. less than 1 in 20 of those tests came through what you would consider to be the traditional healthcare system. Meaning through your primary care physician's office or an urgent care center or in a hospital, right? They were being done in the parking lots of Walmart or Walgreens or CVS. They were being done in really kind of interesting places, right? They were being done in kind of interesting ways. The idea, did you have to call into a doctor's office and they told you, unfortunately, we don't have any appointments today, but I can get you in 2 days from now? No, you literally just drove up and got in line, or you used a scheduling app and they said you need to be at this spot at exactly 9:52, and if you were there at 9:52, you got out at 9:55. And so now you had so what happened? Now you had consumers who, including myself, who had that kind of experience, who said, hold on, if that worked for COVID, why can't I do that for flu or strep or any other infectious disease? Heck, why does it matter? Like, why can't I do it for anything? Like all diagnostics, all lab, like, why can't I just go test anything I want to test, figure out what the result is, and then act on it? He started to ask questions exactly like, if you can schedule that, if you can schedule an environment where there are hundreds or thousands of people coming in to get tested, and you can schedule me into an appointment and guarantee me that if I'm at this spot at a certain time, you'll take care of me within minutes. Why am I still waiting for 2 hours in the lobby for a doctor's appointment, which actually happened to me here recently? Because why do you not have technology and systems that enable you to kind of manage your flow better so that you get me in and out? I think, and you've certainly seen that in telehealth, right? Where people are coming in and because they've got load balancing other things, they can say, we're going to keep you in the waiting room for 5 minutes, or if you want, or 7 minutes if you've just now come in. But if you schedule an appointment, we'll guarantee you that we'll see you within 2 minutes of the time of your appointment. Okay, if they can do that, why can't we make the whole system work that way? And so I do think it certainly has changed, or maybe not changed. What it has further accelerated this belief that we as consumers deserve to be treated better than the system has treated us. And we deserve to have more access. We deserve to have things be more convenient. We deserve to be sort of just treated better, have things be simpler. And so I think, I think it has really acted as an accelerant in a way that, it will probably take a couple of years until we fully understand how much it did accelerate not just our thinking, but our demands and our desires from the system.
Well, I'm hoping it's sooner than that, because I'm excited about Walmart Health rolling out on a broader basis. And so I'd love to hear more about how you're rolling out Walmart Health across your stores. Philip mentioned the footprint that you have. There's so many things. I know I mentioned I've got 4 kids and they're pretty rough and tumble. And so I've definitely experienced a few broken bones, riding bikes, doing skateboards, all of the above. And the process of getting an X-ray all by itself is just, it's a kind of a nightmare. And I do remember, I think when Walmart Health,
Brian, just ask, when are you coming to Seattle?
When are you coming to Seattle? Yeah, that's all I'm asking, actually. No, but I would love to hear more about your rollout.
Yeah, well, what I can say is, I think one of the big questions is, as you think about the markets that you go into first, or how do you kind of prioritize? There's a number of things, but we're trying to use an approach that I think in many ways it is interesting. We had built this approach, and then a number of things happen. I know we talk about COVID, but you also think about the George Floyd murder and the dialogue that has occurred since that, and other related events, which were tragic, but that drove a conversation around the inequities that exist driven by race and ethnicity, and particularly those in health, the health inequities that exist systemically. And what was interesting is we kind of stepped back and looked at how we were assessed, not just how we built Walmart Health and how we were, and the journey we were on to make that model work, but also where we were going with it. We used this kind of concept. We created this concept of the net health need. And what that really tried to do is you looked at the market and said, well, how many people are actually truly providing care? And you don't just count the number of physicians or primary care doctors or dentists or whatever. You actually say, well, is that how many of these doctors actually accept Medicaid? Because if they don't accept Medicaid, it's the same as not having access if you're on Medicaid. So we would look at how much care was being delivered in that community. And then we look at the underlying demand for care, like how much care was already being consumed by the people who live in that community, regardless of whether they were getting it from providers that were local or further away. And then we also started looking and say, well, but how much care do they really need? Like if you've got a diabetic and this person says, I haven't gotten any care in the last year, that's probably not good. This is somebody who you would want to provide much more support for. And so we created this concept that was trying to look at what real demand should be for care based on the underlying health of the community and what is the real ability of that community from a provider perspective, the supply to address demand. And so we created this kind of net health need. Now, that's really driving where we go. And as we look at markets, and because we want to go where there's the greatest need. What's interesting, and there's a strong business principle around that. You should always go where the demand is greatest and where there's not oversupply. But what it also started to align with was this sort of, as we started to have a conversation around inequities of health, not surprisingly, those communities of color are often the ones that have the highest net health need because have been wildly underserved. So I think about when we made the decision to move into Illinois and move in the Chicago market. We didn't just move into Chicago. We went into two communities, Austin and Chatham, because they were the two communities that had the highest net health need. And, and maybe just to bring it to light, I mean, in Georgia, for example, the first market we went to was Dallas, Georgia. And Dallas is a wonderful community. But you looked at the typical community in Georgia, and the ratio of people for every primary care physician might be one for every 1,200, maybe one for every 1,500. In a really well-served community, it's one for 800. I believe in Dallas at that time, it was one primary care physician for over 8,000 people. And so you started to see people, when you would look at it, like a lot of people saying, I'm not getting my care. I'm not getting care. You're like, okay, well, that's the community I want to go into because that's the one where we think we can have the greatest impact. So it's kind of a longer story, but that's really what's driving us is to really look at those communities where there's the greatest need, because they represent both, the moral component, which is let's help those who have the greatest need. There's also a strong business component, which is that there's demand there. So let's go where the demand is. And so that's really driving where we're going and how we think about rolling these solutions out.
There's somebody will write us an email after this comes out and ask us why we didn't ask the following question. So Brian and I think feel have already expressed how bullish I think that we are in having a company, the size and scale and influence that a Walmart does to help solve this, because it's not been solved and it's been a long time. So why doesn't a company that has the kinds of resources and operational excellence like yours try to be part of the solution? So I would commend it. But the question has to be asked, like, where is the threshold between the consumer and the patient? They are one and the same person, but in one side of the house, they're a consumer who is treated one way, and on another side of the house, they have to become a patient where new rules apply. How do those two modalities of that person play out? I'm sure there's a lot to unpack there, but how do those play out, and how does your relationship on one side of the threshold versus the other inform the other experience?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I guess the way I would think about it is, I think today there are those two modalities. I think the way I would answer it is that I don't think that there should be two modalities. I think it is one. when I think definitionally, when somebody talks about, and I use the word consumer, healthcare consumer a lot. When I think about the word consumer, on one hand, people are like, I don't like the word consumer because it's all about consumption, and like, okay, I get you. But but when I think about the word consumer, what I actually think about is someone who is empowered and in control, and if they don't get things the way they want them, you're going to know about it. And if they don't get, if you as a solutions provider to them, and this certainly is the case in retail, if you don't take care of me as the consumer, then I will take my business somewhere else and you won't exist. And we all know that the history of retail in the U.S. is littered with not only sort of with names of great companies, but is littered with the names of a number of companies that were great once that are no longer in existence today. And I won't sort of discuss those tombstones, but I think when I think about the patient, I can tell you, I saw this a few years ago. It was one of the most interesting things. Somebody was describing this kind of consumer patient dynamic, and they showed this woman who was, she had 4 boys, and she was keeping them in line, and she, in the community, in her church, and in the job that she had, she was bold. And they showed her walk into the doctor's office, and this was a woman who was tough, bold, smart, sharp. And she rolled into the check-in desk, and the next thing you see, she became a very different woman. Her shoulders slooped, her head looked down. She was slight in voice, and my reaction to that is, I hate that. Like we don't want to. None of us want to be a patient. We all want to we want to embody us as the version of us as a consumer, the one who's in control, who's clear about what we're demanding and wanting, and has clear expectations, and is looking at the other side, the people who are providing care, and saying, you should be delivering to me the things I want in the way I want them, at a standard that in the ways that I need them. And so I think about that. What do consumers want? They want high quality. They want things affordable. They want things convenient. They want things simple. They want choice. They don't want to be forced. They're like, let me choose how I'm being served, and that how I choose to be served in this moment may be different than how I might want to be served later on this evening, or tomorrow, or in a week. And that's certainly the case in retail. I don't, honestly, I'll tell you, I don't know that it's any different in healthcare. I think it's the same. I mean, obviously these are different sectors, and so, but I think at the core, the same reality exists. And it's not just in retail. I think retail, financial services, healthcare, that the demands of what a consumer wants and how they want to be treated and what they expect and how they want to be served, that kind of underlying standard is the same. And that I don't know that there is this, I don't know that there should be the kind of distinct modality between the consumer and the patient. I think there is a difference probably between a retail consumer and a healthcare consumer. But I think then it's just based on the differences between those service lines, right? And recognizing that what quality means in healthcare is maybe is a little different than what quality means in a retail setting. But in both instances, as a consumer, I want quality, and I want it. And so, so I don't know there is a difference.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the prior question that I asked, which is having your proficiency as a consumer or most people would probably rate their proficiency as a consumer as being quite high. I'm quite educated as a consumer because I shop all the time. Like I have lots of retail experience, because I have to engage in commerce to live. It's when you find yourself as a patient, you're in undiscovered territory. Yep. It's something that's a different experience. And so I would agree with you, but we've now, just to harken back to that prior question, we've all had some sort of new experience as being consumer healthcare or having an experience around COVID that I think is shown us that there's different levels of care in the world and different ways to experience healthcare. And maybe that better informs us all to have higher expectations going forward. Brian, you we're going to jump in.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, I think we've seen this play out a little bit in the drug market to some degree, where like there's alternatives that pop up and there's competition that happens within the drug market. It does takes a little bit longer maybe than in some sectors, but actually I was one of the places where I feel like Walmart just sort of jumped in and sort of represents exactly what you just talked about, is the release or the announcement of the release of the low-cost insulin alternative. And I would love to hear just a little bit about your thoughts, Marcus, on the impact this is going to have for patients and how this represents, Walmart's strategy going forward with drugs. And I guess you've already kind of, I think you've kind of already outlined that, the strategy here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what I'd say is, in some ways it goes back and often, and I sort of get accused, they say, hey, Walmart guy, you always love to talk about cost. That's all Walmart is, you're the save money, live better guys, right? It's always about, price and cost and lower costs and those kind of things. And what I'll tell you honestly, yeah, it is. And particularly in healthcare, it is. You ask the question, healthcare issues are collectively the number one point of stress, angst, and concern amongst Americans. And you ask the question, well, what's the thing about the system that is causing you the greatest angst? It's the cost. It's the perceived lack of affordability. And so one of the things we've seen, going back to, more than, or a decade and a half ago, and when Walmart launched the $4 generic program, which was a program that said, we're going to find the viable generics, generic drugs that in every kind of major therapeutic class, so that everybody, regardless of the chronic illness or disease you have, or if it's for women's health or men's health, we're going to find solutions for you that are just $4 so that you can afford your meds. I think what we found is when doing that, it generated phenomenal results for the system. The phenomenal results were, it wasn't just that it reduced drug spend overall, it actually drove medication adherence. People were able to stay on their drug regimens longer. You heard stories about people, seniors who were pill splitting, or, I would take my pill and then you'd have, if I'm a 75-year-old male, I take this pill today and then I have my wife take it tomorrow. You didn't have to do that anymore because you could both afford your meds. And so kind of fast forward, we've actually had a kind of a private label rely on insulin for a number of years. What's exciting about this announcement is it is a more advanced and innovative product. It's sort of a fast release insulin. And so the idea being, you think about how many diabetics we have in the United States and how many of those are on insulin, and how many of them are saying the cost of insulin is so significant that I couldn't afford to stay on the regimen I have, or to take insulin at all, or take it as consistently as I should, which is then putting their sort of life at risk, health at risk. And so I think what this is just another example of, but a very exciting one, is that it's showing that even going back to the $4 generic program, where that was about generics, this is about a kind of a more innovative product that we've got to find, and we can find ways when you work together, when groups like Walmart and Novo Nordisk work together, you can find new ways to bring those innovative solutions that are being created that better address the underlying kind of health issues and health needs of consumers. We can bring them to market and make them more affordable, because we can, be smarter about how we manage supply chains. We can, do things with greater efficiency and scale. So I think it's exciting, and it just further kind of represents, I think, the opportunity to say, if you can make price matter, if you can make healthcare more affordable, people will engage in their health. When they engage in their health, they'll have more control. If they have more control over their health, overall costs, their health will improve and overall spending will decline, which is a good thing.
Ooh, we're coming up on time. I'll take you up on the 24-hour podcast. I know Brian will as well. It's been such a pleasure having you. If we could, if you had to look into the crystal ball, what do you think the next stop on Brian, the multiverse? What do you think the evolution of Walmart Health is over the next 5 years?
I think it's probably just two things, and it's not very exciting or super sexy, but I think we have an opportunity. We've got we're doing a lot of work to improve the model, but one is scaling what we're already doing and being able to reach more customers. And I think probably two is, further development and engagement around the omnichannel model, because I think the combination of scaling what we're already doing and what we have, plus building a more robust omnichannel experience around all of it. This just belief that if we can improve that access, if we can, again, make it easy and simple and affordable, people will get the care they need. And if they get the care they need, that's a good thing. It will ultimately be better for not just for them, their families, the communities they live in, but it'll also be better for the system. And so I think it's for us to kind of continue the march to scale and the march to, truly try to enable that omnichannel experience.
Amazing. Marcus Osborne from Walmart, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening to Future Commerce. You can tell us what you think the future of healthcare looks like and how retail experiences are forming your opinions about patient experiences. I want to hear from you. Drop us a line at hello@futurecommerce.fm and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Future Commerce. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. How do I end this show? I forget. That's it. All right. Bye-bye.